But the part about how Love played in Kansas City. Now, you were there for that game. You saw how he played. You also know, as I know, that Matt LaFleur basically takes the blame for absolutely everything, even when it's not in any way his fault, right? That is, if there is a signature thing about a Matt LaFleur press conference, he is going to take the blame. And so this idea that, well, he said after the game that they didn't have a good game plan for Jordan, I'm sure he did. He also took all the blame for Amari Rogers' failings before they cut him, and for Sammy Watkins injuring his hamstring. Remember that last year? That was Matt LaFleur's fault in Matt LaFleur's world. But I thought it was interesting that Goody, in one of the few quotes from him in the story, says to you, we didn't have a great game plan for him there when he's talking about how Love played against Kansas City. Did you find that interesting? Because to me, when I read that, that sounds like, hey, my guy that I drafted, the reason he didn't play well is because we didn't have a good game plan for him. It's not because he's bad.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I completely disagree. I don't take it as, maybe you can read into it that way. I'm not calling you crazy, but I honestly think it's this organization's way of doing things to just take the blame, whoever it may be, Goody, LaFleur. Now, is Sammy Watkins' hamstring injury LaFleur's fault? Obviously not, but that's one of LaFleur's flaws, if you want to call it, that he just takes blame for everything. It's also what makes him a good coach, because he protects his players from blame and stuff like that, regardless of whether we can see through that kind of BS or not. I honestly think it was more of a we didn't have a good plan, as saying, us as the team. And listen, even if it was Goody saying Matt and his staff didn't have a good plan, I bet if you hook LaFleur up to a lie detector, he would say, yeah, we didn't. Nobody expected Jordan to go into that game and go gangbusters on the Kansas City Chiefs. He completed 6 of 14 passes to Devontae Adams. It was very clear that being thrust into that on such short notice, I think they only had 1 or 2 days of advance notice after Rodgers tested positive in one of the toughest environments to play in the National Football League, is an unenviable position. Now, obviously, in the story, as everyone who read it knows, Goody said that the way Jordan kind of stuck in there and hung with that and responded was impressive. But I didn't read that, honestly, as, the coaching staff set my guy up for failure, made my guy look bad. Because even if Goody was in LaFleur's position and, had his hands on the game plan, there's only so much you can do to set a guy in that position up for success going into that environment on that short notice, with what they had. They allowed 16 pressures in that game. It's a matter of fact, their plan to protect him was not good enough. But there have been other games where they've allowed 16 pressures for Rodgers, too. I think it's just how it goes. And if it was a stretch of 6 games where that was the case, I think we could maybe take more validity in what kind of Goody said, and what you're saying is to maybe it was more of a reflection on LaFleur and the coaching staff. But I think LaFleur and Goody, and what I've gathered, are on the same page about this kid. They're really happy about what they have. They're optimistic from what he showed both in games and in practice. And more than anything, they just like the makeup of the kid. By all accounts, and from when I asked Rodgers, they love just who he is as a leader, as a kid. So